Welcome to Let's Get Into It. I am your host, Sherelle Higgins. Let's Get Into It is a safe space to have real conversations that are meant to uplift, encourage, and let you know you are not the only one dealing with life. Each episode of Let's Get Into It is designed to provide illuminating and thought-provoking information on a variety of topics. In fact, no topic is off limit. If you would like to see a topic discussed, please feel free to make a recommendation. My special guest and I will have a great time discussing topics that the mainstream media wouldn't dare discuss. We will bring these conversations. Welcome to Let's Get Into It. I am your host, Sherelle Higgins. Let's Get Into It is a safe space to have real conversations that are meant to uplift, encourage, and let you know you are not the only one dealing with life. Each episode of Let's Get Into It is designed to provide illuminating and thought-provoking information on a variety of topics. In fact, no topic is off limit. If you would like to see a topic discussed, please feel free to make a recommendation. My special guest and I will have a great time discussing topics that the mainstream media wouldn't dare discuss. We will bring these conversations to you with an open mind, respectfully, from different perspectives, and most importantly, with love. Thank you for joining me and my special guest. Now, let's get into it. Hello. This is the first episode of 2026. Let's get into it. I am your host, Sherelle Higgins, and I thought, most people make New Year's resolutions. I never do, because I know statistically that most people who make New Year's resolutions, by the 15th of January, those resolutions are dead. And so I choose not to do that. I just try to make decisions daily to better not only my life, but the life of people around me. And so many people have asked me questions around doing a podcast. Some people say, how's your podcast going? Or I want to start a podcast, asking me about the platforms I use, how is it done, how much time it's taken, and all of that kind of stuff. So I thought it would be fitting to start the year off with my guest, Dean, who's going to talk to us about the work that they do behind the scenes for me. And let's get into it, because the way my patients are set up, I just cannot do the all of the behind the scenes work. And I met my guest through a sister friend of mine, and so I wanted to bring him on to talk about the work that they do behind the scenes, which I will tell you, as you can see, is fabulous. So without further ado, let me bring Dean to the stage. Dean is the operations manager for Virtual Business Solutions. And Dean, can you believe it's been 2 years that we've been
Wow.
together? And I am completely happy with the services that your organization provides. And
Nice
also,
to meet you.
yeah, I have referred you to some people
That's right.
because I can't help people. The way my patients are set up, it won't allow for it. so so thank you for agreeing to come on. I don't know if my guests really know, but I never give my guests the questions ahead of time, because I like for it to be an authentic conversation. I always tell them that I will not ask them any questions that they do not already know the answers to. So there's no reason to give the questions ahead of time. And so Dean has graciously agreed to come on as my guest so we could talk about the services that Virtual Business Solutions offer. And not only that, just kind of how they help me with this podcast. So, with that being said, Dean, my first question to you is, um, so let's talk about how we were introduced. Um, I know that you work with my girlfriend, my sister friend, Jennifer Dorn, and
Yeah,
she is a realtor, and you do a lot of work for her. And so one day I was trying to do this podcast on my own in the background, and I was like, well, wait a minute. Let me ask Jen who she's using for her social media stuff. And she introduced me to you. And so I was so thankful for that. And at the time that we were introduced, you were in the Philippines, correct?
that's correct.
Okay. And so, we as Americans have to think outside of the box and, not only go with what's most cost effective, but also what I really like about the services you all provide is the professionalism, the timeliness, the lack of effort on my part to make things happen. That's very important to me. Now, some people may want to be, extremely involved in all of that. I'm not that type of person. I go to the professionals and let them do what they do. And so, Dean and his team are the professionals and they do what they do. So, let's talk about what type of services does Virtual Business Solutions offer?
Well, we actually provide a lot of services. It really depends. So we initially we started with real estate, with brand identity. We started with appointment setting and media management. And then we got, and like, for example, like what you said, Jennifer Dorn, I do Jennifer Dorn's graphics. So for Agent for the People, I do the graphics. I do all the, their stuff, their marketing stuff. And then my team also does their social media. So I have a designated virtual assistant for their social media. I have a designated virtual assistant that helps Jennifer, that works as her assistant. And my wife also works with Jennifer Dorn as her operations manager. So we do a lot. Recently, we've gone to property management. So we are basically doing short-term rentals where we do everything from inquiry to checkout. So we take care of everything from guest communication, making sure that all the platforms like Airbnb and VRBO are updated and all that stuff. And then we also do video editing, graphics like what we do for you, video editing, podcasts, and we basically just tailor fit, our services. So for example, if a client comes in, lets us know what they need, I basically find a subject matter expert that can help us with that particular with that particular client need, and we get a VA trained for that specific need, and then we go from there. But initially, when the client comes to us for services, we try to learn that service, and we get um, all the information that we can about it. We get the client's intake on what their goal is, what they need help on, and we basically customize our services to make sure that we're always aligned with the goal that our client will need and wants, and we go from there.
Okay. So one of the things I mentioned to you right before we went live is how, some people, I won't say a lot, some people approach me and say, I want to do a podcast. Can you help me? And one of the things I say to them is you have to be willing to invest in yourself, because I'm not the expert at podcasts. Yes, I've been doing this for 2 years, but I don't do any of the work. The only work that I do for the podcast is record the podcast. And that's one of the things I really appreciated about you when we first started working together. You told me, all you need to do is record the podcast. We'll take it from there. I'm like, oh, that's music to my ears because I know what I was going through trying to figure out how to not only do the podcast, but come up with the intro, come up with the outro, come up with the graphics and all of that. And so let's start with the graphics because one of the things, like I had a logo for my company, Ouch Baby Productions, and then I sent you all the logo. And as you can see in the bottom, for me, it's the bottom right hand corner. It might be your bottom left hand corner. Is my logo for Ouch Baby Productions. But you all came up, you asked me about the colors, and the colors for my business was purple and green. Green's my favorite color. It also represents money. Purple represents royalty, right? And I think I'm royalty. So here we go. And so that's how I came up with my colors. But you all came up with what it would look like on the screen. Let's talk about the importance of branding.
Yes. So when you shared with us your logo and your initial branding, we wanted to make sure that we created something uniform to that, and we wanted to make sure that we push that so everything is consistent. So when people see the green and the purple, they know it's you. So everything that everything in my team, we've made sure that everything that we push out from the graphics that we put, the announcements, all the way to anything that we create for you is has that same type of branding. So we want to maintain the consistency. Branding is very important because it's what people remember, right? So when you see a check, you know that's Nike, right?
Right.
So it's something that people can remember, something that people that resonate with, and something that we want to be consistent with because it's what they'll always remember. Oh, it's a purple and green. Oh, it's Sherelle, right? So even in your announcements, like the background, the color scheme, it's always consistent. It's purple and green. Your logo's always there, and everything else. So branding is very important.
And so I know, when I was first thinking about doing my own podcast, um, one of the things I read was, a lot of people get stuck and get more focused on a logo versus really what the content is going to be. And so for me, the way my brain operates, I had to be able to do both. Well, fortunately, I had my logo way before I decided to do a podcast. So I didn't have to really, wrestle with that thought in my head. But I did struggle, Dean, with coming up with a name for my podcast. But I also, years ago, before I did my podcast, wrote down different topics that I would want to talk about. I didn't necessarily know it was going to be a podcast, but as a conference speaker, just kind of writing down different topics that I wanted to approach. And so it kind of all came together with being able to do a podcast and being able to talk about things that I wanted to talk about. One of the things I know for sure is that I didn't want to be pigeonholed into a certain subject. Because when I first started doing a podcast, thinking about doing a podcast, I was going to call it Porch Politics, and it was going to be all about politics. And then I decided I don't really want to talk about that like that. Politics is a beast of its own. I really wanted to talk about things that will give people encouragement, give people hope, give people a different way of looking at things. Just talk about, you know, I didn't want, again, as the intro says, no topic is off limits. And so, how difficult is it for you and your team to work with somebody like me who don't want to be pigeonholed into a certain topic?
Well, actually, it was like working with you was actually pretty easy. You fed us all the information we needed for us to come up with stuff. Like, let's get into it. I don't exactly remember how we came up with it, but I'm pretty sure we got it from you.
Yeah, I came up with that name one day.
Yeah, we got it from what you said, and then all the cursive branding. We just wanted to make it. It's a flow. It's smooth, and I can't take all the credit. My design team is Raven. Shout out to Raven,
Shout
and
out to
and then
Raven.
yeah. So
Shout
and they
out
took
to
care of
Raven. A big shout out to Raven. Raven is the bomb.com. Raven makes my life very easy. So one of the
that.
things I know that, when you have clients, that clients are all over the spectrum, right? In terms of their expectations. And so one of the things, and I was even like this in the workplace, I never expected perfection. I just expected effort. And I think that's two very, perfection and effort is two very different things. And so even with me not expecting perfection, because one of the things I realize is that as long as humans are involved, mistakes are going to happen.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
how important is it that your clients be open minded enough to understand that mistakes are going to happen? And most mistakes that happen are not life threatening. And so, therefore, they could be easily corrected and you could just move on from it. I mean, because not only will uh, your virtual assistants make mistakes, but so does the client, right? There's been a couple times where I sent something that was incorrect and we had to, regroup and correct it. And
Yeah,
one of the things I loved about your team is that they've always been so apologetic. And I'm just like, it's no big deal. Like mistakes happen.
yeah. So initially, I like to, also set the expectations that when you work with somebody or when we work together, there's always going to be a learning curve or like a period of time where we get to learn how to work with each other. So there's things like I've always taught my team to, to learn your client and make sure that you work the way they like. So you gotta find you gotta find what roles they're both or
Hmm.
so I always set that expectations with the client that hey, there's going to be a learning curve initially when we start working together. My VA is going to need to get to know you. And the best way for them to get to know you is that you guys communicate. You let them know what you like, how you like things done. And that way we can do things the way you like things done. And eventually we become you in a way where, we start doing things the way you do it so that, you basically that you delegate that to us and we take it away from you. But then of course there's a time there's a period of time where that takes it could be a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but usually the learning curve is 2 weeks, 3 weeks at the most. But I
I,
always set that expectation.
I like to think I've been an easy client because once you say all you have to do is record it, I'm like, and
Yeah,
so you said something important, very important, which is delegate the trust.
yes,
And
ma'am.
so I never feel the need to follow up behind you all to see as well. Raven is my assistant, virtual assistant, and he's phenomenal. And so I never feel the need to follow up behind Raven to make sure that he did X, Y, and Z. None of that. I'm just like, here it is. I do my part. Here it is. And then I just wash my hands of it. I don't even go back and check. So that's delegating the trust, right? Because trust is important in any kind of relationship, whether it's
Yes, ma'am.
personal or business. And so I know in the beginning, you all had to figure out some strategies in terms of, let's talk about those strategies in terms of like when you would post um, my next guest, when you would post the clips, when you would post, certain things on my behalf. Let's talk about that strategy. How did you all come up with that strategy?
So with the strategy, it's more on research. So we would research like first we wanted to know what you wanted out of it, like what your goal was, and then we would research like when's the best time to post, when would there be a lot of people that are viewing things or like for reels, like when we post your reels. I'm pretty sure Raven searched on when is the best time to post reels. All that is public information or information that Facebook shares. So we basically use that information and we use it to our advantage where we share all those things on specific times and your guesting information like your announcement. We made sure that there's enough time where people can see who your next guest is and they can get excited about it. And so it's all strategic. So we did a lot of research and planning.
Okay, and so that's important because people think, well, some people think with podcasts, you just jump on and just do a podcast. I'm like, It's a little bit more effort than that. I'm like, when you're watching podcasts, people make it seem easy, but they don't realize the behind the scenes work that go into it. And so one of the things I tried to do before I got with you and your team is doing clips, right? That's not necessarily the easiest thing to do. And so talk about like how important it is to put those clips out there after the show has broadcast in order to keep the audience engaged.
Well, actually, the clips are actually, to be honest, there's a AI now that does the clips, but then they don't really get the best things out of the video. So I'm pretty sure right now, like when Raven does your clips or when he edits your videos, he's always watching every episode. So that way, when he does the editing, he already knows where to cut. You know
Mm,
what was informative. So we use those clips as a teaser to remind people of how that specific episode was and the best clips from that episode. So like, you know, people like, oh, I missed that episode. Which one was that? They go back to it and watch the whole episode. So it's like a trailer to a movie.
mm, mm-hmm.
And
And
then
oh, go ahead.
yeah. So while we're doing this, I bet you Raven's watching. He's already have he's already knowing where to cut, what to produce for the clips, and then I'm not really sure what he's doing because I trust him. So like you said, delegate the trust. So hey, Raven, take care of this, and he takes care of it.
Hi, Raven.
Yeah,
Yes, because I don't. For me, I wanted mine to be on a professional level, not
yes,
just
ma'am.
some homemade thing, right? And so um, that speaks to investing in yourself, right? And being able to understand that if this is something that you want to do, you have to be willing to put your money where your mouth is and, work with the professionals to do it. And so when we talk about, we get the logo. Well, I had the logo. We get the color scheme. We get the what the background look like. Now we went through several options. You all gave me several options to choose from. And so we kind of went through that. And then it seemed like to me, Dean, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we initially started communicating and coming up with these ideas. It was kind of months into it before we actually had like a Zoom meeting to kind of talk about how do we elevate this to another level. Um, and I know at the end of 2024, I kind of did a snapshot of like where I had the most viewers. And I thought that was important. And I reached out to those guests to say, hey, your episode got the most views. Your episode got the second most views or the third most views, and gave them what those numbers were. Like, how important is it that we keep tabs on what we're doing and how we define success?
Well, keeping tabs. Well, you can't if you don't keep tabs or anything. There's really nothing you can measure. So you have to be able to measure. So knowing like your viewers and what type of topics they're usually viewing will tell you certain things like for example, it will tell you what topics you should be focusing on or what was what they like to listen to or what was that certain thing that got you the most views or you can't measure anything if there's no numbers.
Mm,
So
yeah.
right, so the
And
numbers tell a lot.
yeah, the numbers definitely tell a lot. And I'm always, when I'm looking at the numbers, I'm always curious as to, I mean, the numbers are just numbers, right? It doesn't associate with any person or individual. And
Mm.
so I'm always like, who are these people? And then when I'm out and about, and people say to me, "Oh, I watch your podcast all the time." I always immediately instinct instinctively think, oh, so you were one of the 1900, or you were one of the 2100, or you were one, like, like, it's always amazing to me that people are like, I watch your podcast all the time. And I'm just like, oh, because the numbers are just the numbers. You just don't know who those people are.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. We have a question. How can a person get more people to engage with the content?
How can a person get I'm sorry, what was that? How can a
How
person
can a person get more people to engage with the content?
well, it's I'm not sure, but it's probably the same thing we're doing with so for example, with the with this podcast or with any other podcast we've done, we take segments of it and we post it as reels. That way they get, like I said, they get like a trailer to a movie or
Mhm.
like a snippet of what that podcast. So once they like, for example, if you and that person or you in that snippet was something very interesting, you'd wanna, hey, that's cool. I wonder how the whole episode turned out, right? So they would be more engaged in that content, and they would look into that whole podcast. And eventually, if they see enough snippets from that same podcast, like what we do, so every time you do a podcast, we at least try to get seven. I think seven. I gotta check with Raven, but it's 5 to 7 snippets, right? That we post throughout the week until we spread it out until your next podcast. So we have content that we're posting, weekly for you. So that way, when people do miss the podcast, they see snippets and they go back and say, "Hey, I wanted to watch the whole full thing. I seen the snippets. It looked pretty interesting." They go to YouTube or they go to your page and they watch the whole thing.
Yeah, and one of the things I dislike that Facebook has done recently is they delete the videos after 30 days. Now, the saving grace in that is that it's also on YouTube. And so one of the things I know is that to get more people to engage, as people comment, you have to comment as well and to keep the
Mm.
conversation going. And so it's important to do that if your goal is to get more people to engage. Now, um, on social media, of course, anytime I post anything about football, I got engagement galore. It's a lot of haters out there on my Bears, but that's okay. We go back and forth. And so that kind of, drives the numbers. And then I get certain messages from Facebook saying, people were really engaged with this or that. And so with the podcast, it's the same kind of concept. You have to engage with people, not just have people make a comment on a reel or on the entire podcast and you not respond to it. So I know that that's an effort. And so, and I don't think people realize how much time it takes to do a 1 hour podcast. um, if you really want to do it right, if you want to have the engagement, if you want to drive up the viewership, if you want to, keep it front and center of people's minds, because an hour is a long time for people to sit and watch. Even with me, I watch YouTube all day, every day. And the way my patients are set up, you need to tell me in 15 minutes or less. Right. And so instead of watching an entire podcast, I'll wait until they drop the clips and then I can catch the whole thing in clips. And so it's important to have somebody who can capture those clips and make people more interested, even if they don't go back and watch the entire podcast, but to continue to watch clips that are being dropped. You agree with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so um, let's talk about one of the things I believe in is you pay for what you get, right? And while I won't ask you to talk specifically about how much you charge, because that depends on what people are asking you for, I do believe that you pay for what you get. And I feel like the price that I pay is worth every dime, because not only are you doing the clips, you're doing the editing, you're doing the advertising, you're making sure that the YouTube page is right, the Instagram, the Facebook, and so I recognize the behind the scene work that is being done. But let's flush out a little bit more about the behind the scenes work, because people who want to do a podcast need to understand that this is not something. I do my podcast every other Thursday for an hour. And this is not something that I just do every other Thursday for an hour. It's things that have to come up, that I have to do in the
Yeah,
background before that, and things that you all do in the background before that.
yeah.
And so, let's talk about like the editing. Like what type, like what's the, I guess, what's the process for that?
Well, that's actually not my skill set,
That's a
but
Raven question.
yeah, but I think most of the time I don't think he has a lot of trouble with the editing because, like I said, he's watching it already live. So by the time that he gets to the editing, he already knows the points where he needs to edit. And Raven is he's pretty good at what he does, so editing for him is it's pretty simple, I guess. But the editing, I've done editing once or maybe once or twice. And it's pretty difficult because, for example, if it's difficult if you don't watch it because you have to watch the whole thing to know where to edit, right?
Mm.
Yeah. But I think with your podcast, I don't think he's had any. He's never really said that he's had a hard time or anything like that. But yeah,
Good. That's a good
yeah,
thing.
the editing part, I'm really it's not my skill set. So
Well, you know
yeah.
what? This brings me to the next question then. How important is it to have a team around you who can do things that you can't do or things that you're not even interested in doing?
Well, it's very important to have people in the right seats. You know, the right people in the right seats. So everybody has their own skill set. So like for example, the whole team. I have somebody that's great in graphics. Everybody in graphics, everybody in my team that does graphics has their own way of doing graphics. So, like for example, I do graphics myself, so I have my own style. Like Jennifer will tell you, my style is so different from everybody else, and that's why she keeps me from. I've done graphics with her for a long time, and my style is different from everybody else. I have somebody that can do something that's very simple and make it look good, and I have somebody that can make that's really complex, but it still looks good. And then me, I'm pretty innovative with my graphic. I put things together, but then I know how to make it look good. So it really depends. So having the right people in the right seats that know, like everybody's like you have a subject matter expert for everything, and that's what we aim for too. Like for example, if a client approaches me for a certain thing, I gotta find the right person that knows what they're talking about, so that we know how to help them. Because I'm not gonna pretend like I know how to help them when I don't know how. So that's correct. Having the right people in the right seats, to help you out and do those things for you helps a lot. And it makes sure that the relationship that you build with that client is healthy because you gotta know what you're talking about. You gotta know what you're doing.
And that's in any occupation, right? Because you
Yes,
can't
ma'am.
do anything on your own. And it's so important to surround yourself with people who to some degree think like you, but not always, but some people who think differently than you, people who have different skill sets than you. I know when I was in the workplace, I used to always try to surround myself with people who knew stuff about stuff I didn't know. And I'm just like, okay, explain this to me. And I ain't had no shame in it. I'm like, I'm not trying to know everything. I just need to know enough to be able to talk about it to get these people off my back.
Yeah.
And so let's see, we got some questions here. How long have you been doing this type of work?
Oh my gosh, I've been doing it for so long. So me, as a VA myself, I've been doing it since 2013.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Before, yeah, since 2013, and then the whole doing the VA business with others, it just naturally happened. Like people say, hey, do you know anybody else that can help us with this? And that's when I started like, hey, I can find somebody for you, or I can see, and then it just popped. It just happened naturally, and that's
Yeah.
where I started. I've been doing this since 2013, and since 2013, I've acquired so many different skill sets. So I've always been an administrative assistant.
Hmm.
I've done the cold calling myself. I've done graphics. Um, I've done consulting. I've done short-term rentals, and from 2017 until now, I'm still doing administrative assistant work and handling short-term rentals.
Okay. So, Agent for the People said, I love working with Virtual Business Solutions. They have been partners for years. Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's see. Kiani said, "Did you are you self-taught or did you go to school
I'm
for it?"
self-taught.
Self-taught.
Yes, ma'am.
Woo. You got a lot of patience. Let's see. Agent for the People said, absolutely. Hire for your weakness. Yes, hire for your weakness. Stay in your lane and let the professionals who do this task on a regular basis take care of it. I agree with that, Agent for the People. Yes. Woo, you got to know your limitations, Sarah Palin. And I'm here for it. And I knew after my first effort to try to do this on my own that that was not my that's not my lane. And so I hurried up and got up out that lane. I was like, whoo, it was a lot. And
Yeah,
so how do you I know you and your team has been working together. I guess you all been working together for a long time. So
yeah.
how do you bring people into your team and assign them to new clients?
Um, so with my team, everybody in my team is we're like a close-knit community. I don't have anybody that's everybody in my team has been referred by somebody from the team.
Okay.
And when I was in the Philippines, everybody in my team I've met personally. I've met their families. I've built a relationship with them, so I'm able to trust them. We haven't really put anybody on the team that's outside, or have hired anybody outside of our circle or community or whatever
Mm.
you call it. But yeah. And what was the question again?
So you answered one part about bringing people onto your team, but how do you assign them to new clients?
It would depend on their skill set. So if I feel like we take a lot of pride in assigning people to the right clients, because I want to make sure that when I assign somebody to them, it works out. So it would really depend on the skill set. If I feel that this VA has a skill set of they have strong admin skills, they're very they have good attention to detail, they learn fast, I would assign them to a client that would need that specific skill set, and make sure that I'm always in between. I'm always in between. So whenever I introduce the VA, or whenever I make that endorsement, I'm always in between. I'm making sure that, hey, is this done? Hey, how's this going? And make sure that it's a harmonious relationship all throughout. And then if it isn't, I'll find somebody else and make sure that it does become that.
Yeah, I can imagine sometimes as clients we could be either very needy, very demanding, um, sometimes aggressive, right? And so I can imagine that it is very important to match the right VA, virtual assistant, to the right client. Um, and so one of the things I was sharing with you before we went live is I'm pretty easy. I've been going to the same hairdresser for the last 17 years. I don't tell her what to do with my hair. I don't want to be involved. Don't ask me nothing. I go in, I sit in the chair, she do her thing. Same thing with my nail technician. Don't ask me what color I want. I don't want to be involved. I come to you, you do your thing. And with my nail technician, because I've only been probably going to her for 4 or 5 years now. When we first um, started when I first started going to her, she used to be like, "Well, what color you want?" Or I was like, "Girl, just do your thing." And then she was a little nervous about doing something that I may not like. I said, "Look, this is how we gonna operate. I said, "It's just a color. I don't care." I'm not a person that be like, "Oh my god, I don't wanna wear this color. Oh my god, I don't like that color." Or, necessarily designs. And once you got to know me, it was easier. But, I told her, I said, "This how we gonna operate. Imma let you do your thing. If you do something that I do not like, I'm gonna pay you your money. I'm gonna wear it for a couple weeks, and then I'm gonna say we're not doing that no more." I have not yet had to tell her that, and
Mm.
so, it's important. Jen said, "Agent for the people," said, "I'm all of the above except aggressive, just ADHD." When you can have all of that, I don't want to be aggressive. I don't want to be overly demanding. I want to be very forgiving when mistakes happen. I don't want to make a big deal out of it. I don't want to be stressing people out. I want Raven to be able to do his thing, and he does, and it works for me. So, Jen, you need to calm down with your ADHD. And so you talked a little bit about different industries that you do branding for or marketing and all of that. And so once you have a brand, how important is the marketing piece?
Um, not sure I can really answer that because for me, for example, Virtual Business Solutions, we have a brand, but we've never really done any marketing, right? We've never
Oh,
done any marketing at all.
I disagree. I think everything you do is marketing.
Yeah, but like you've never seen me post or anything about it.
No, no,
Like,
no, no. Marketing for your clients, not marketing for your business. Marketing for your clients.
oh, marketing for our clients, yes, that's very important because that's how we get them, business. For example, what's a good example? Agent for the People, Jennifer. So, I do a graphic. So like, whenever she's out, they're doing something, I gotta make sure she looks good everywhere she goes. So, like for example, just simple tablecloth that we do a design for her, I gotta make sure she looks good. When we design a t-shirt for her, I gotta make sure she looks good wearing that. Or like if we do like a car wrap or like a banner, I gotta make sure it's nice, bold, loud, and it's Jennifer, agent for the people. And people can see it and be like, oh wow, the blue and the gradient to the black, that's agent for the people. And they know it. So marketing is very important. And
Yeah.
we gotta make sure they look good.
So you get most of your business word of mouth?
Yes, ma'am. So since we started, we've never really done any marketing for VBS, right? We've never really done any marketing. All the clients that we have now are just from word of mouth or a referral.
And that speaks volumes because that means that the people that you work with are very pleased with your services
Yes,
and
ma'am. Thank you very
they're
much.
willing to, pass your information along. Let's see, agent for the people say the great thing is they know me and they do think for me. Yes, they do. They know exactly my style. I love them. Yes.
Yeah.
I feel the same way, Jen.
Actually, shout out to my clients from Virginia. Majority of our clients are from Virginia.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
Yeah, so like
interesting.
more than 50% are from Virginia.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's real
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's real interesting. And so you were initially when I first started working with you in the Philippines, and now you're in Canada.
Yes, ma'am.
And so talk about, was it a transition for your role in your business, moving from the Philippines to Canada, or was it pretty seamless?
Well, in the Philippines, I had more control because the people that I've worked with or the VAs, I get to see them all the time. Now I don't. So one big transition is basically finding somebody that's there that can help me manage the rest of the team. So
Mm,
that was the only big transition. I think otherwise, Everybody from the team is solid, and everybody knows what they need to do. So it wasn't much of a transition, but of course I miss my team. I miss being able to just visit them and seeing them. But I
Mhm.
made sure before I did leave, or when I do come to visit, I see them.
So one of the things I've always been impressed with since the beginning of our working relationship is there's a 12-hour time difference between Virginia and the Philippines.
Yes, ma'am.
And I can't tell whenever it's time to communicate, right? And so it's like, I don't even like think, oh, like if I send a message at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, I don't even think, oh, it's 12 o'clock at night, they might be asleep, right? And so for me, it was very comforting to know that the time difference wasn't a concern for me as a client, and that if I sent a message that I would get a response in a timely fashion. And so is it that the VA sleep during the day when we up at night? Like, how does this work?
Yeah,
Or do
so
they at
a
all?
lot of the VAs, since we support U.S. clients, a lot of the VAs are asleep during the day and they are awake during the night. So they do graveyard shifts.
Okay.
And my team is taught that, hey, if you don't respond within 5 to 10 minute time frame, I'm automatically going to assume you're asleep. So you're
Mm,
sleeping on the job. So when I
mm,
like if you notice, I'm included in every single group chat with the client and the VA. And if I see that, hey, you haven't responded within 5 to 10 minutes, I'm already calling them.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
Imma tell you that's so awesome to me, because just trying to navigate that huge time difference and not having to worry about it. It is great. I know that, whenever I send a message, I typically get a response right away.
yes, ma'am.
Maybe once or twice I didn't. I wasn't even tripping over that though, because I was like, whatever, they'll
Yeah,
respond. I knew that they would be on top of it, but I knew that those, I think, couple of times you were on top of it, and you were like, "Wait a minute, hold on, let me find out what's going on." I'm like, "It's no big deal. I'm okay. I'm just asking a question."
yes,
Um,
ma'am. Communication for us is very important because being in a virtual environment and being far away from each other. So that's communication is very important. So my team is taught to make sure even if you don't respond right away, you acknowledge that through the emojis or whatever, you
mhm,
acknowledge that you received the message, and this tells your client or whoever you're communicating with that, hey, you received that message and that you acknowledged it and that you're on it. Don't ever leave anything blank, don't ever leave anything unresponded, because they're gonna think, I don't ever like or want our clients to think that, hey, people are sleeping. They know we work at night, and it's so easy just to crawl into bed and just go back to sleep, right? But I don't want them to think that way. I want them to feel comfortable. They know that we are working and that we're on top of things.
so
So the
I can
response
tell you
time is very important to us.
I feel like y'all are on top of things. Again, I never like when I send a message, I never think, oh, it's 12 hours difference. I might not get a response for another 12 hours. That's never a thought in my head. So, with customer service being a dying thing, I certainly appreciate the customer service that you all provide and
Yes,
how
ma'am. Thank you.
timely it is and how professional it is always. Yeah, Agent for the People says, they don't miss a beat. They sure don't. And then she said, they really don't sleep much.
We're actually getting more. I'm actually getting more sleep now because we're in Canada. We're only like 2 hours apart.
Okay.
Yeah,
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 that
yeah.
makes a big difference. I
Yeah.
went to Vegas for the New Year's Eve and to bring in the new year. And just that 3 hour time difference like it took me out. So I can't even imagine. Like I went to the Maldives, it was a 9 hour time difference, and that really took me out when I got back and lost those 9 hours. Or gained those 9 hours again. I was like, oh my God. So I applaud you all for not missing a beat with the 12-hour time difference.
Yes, ma'am.
Um,
Thank you very much. We really make an effort to make sure we respond and we communicate.
Let's see. Very professional team. Dean and his wife are superheroes. I generally appreciate their service 100%. Yes, one time, Jen. Yes.
Yeah.
And thank goodness for Jen introducing me to you all. I certainly appreciate that because my life has been a lot easier since then. um, and so, Dean, if people wanted to seek out your services, how would they get in touch with you?
Um, well, they can probably go through you, or they can, yeah, or Jennifer, or just reach out on Facebook, or my email's pretty easy, so it's my last name Narvaez at gmail.com, and they can just send an email.
Okay. And so I will echo that if anybody in our audience is looking for some social media expertise or some branding expertise or marketing expertise, you can certainly reach out to me and I will pass you on, connect you with Dean. I think, to continue to support the business is an important thing, and word of mouth is really important, as Dean has mentioned. And so, even though that they are not located in our country, they are available, willing, and able to
Yes, ma'am.
assist you, and you will not be disappointed. And you have to be in a position to be able to delegate trust. I love that terminology. I'm still in that. Delegate trust, and they will not let you down. But like Dean said, they will also take time to get to know you because their approach is not a cookie cutter approach. Everybody doesn't get the same thing, right?
Yes,
They
ma'am.
take
That's
the
correct.
time to get to know you and figure out, what your goals are, what you like, what you don't like, how you like it, and then they give you some advice on how to move forward. And so they are certainly a reputable team. I highly recommend them, and you again will not be disappointed.
Thank you so
Um,
much.
so let's see what time. Time is moving right along. It's 7:22, and so
Wow.
um, give us. I'm going to switch to the funny part of the segment. Give us a horror story without mentioning anybody's names or businesses that you all may have experienced.
Um, oh, I had a client one time. It wasn't my personal client way back then. She was a little bit, she was a little bit crazy. She'd stay on Zoom with me like the whole day just to make sure I was working, and she'd had me share screens so she could see my screen to see if, I'm doing work. Like, how am I gonna do work? It took me to do things a lot longer because she's there watching, and in the Philippines the internet isn't so fast, so she's taking up my bandwidth. So she couldn't delegate trust.
Mm.
That's what it was. And it was a horror story because it was my personal client. I didn't want to lose her. I wanted to make sure that every client that I go through is satisfied. But then it was crazy. Every day when I log in, it's like, I gotta go on Zoom. I gotta make sure that my screen is ready. So I couldn't really work, in my pace. Like me, for example, I work pretty fast, so I've been doing this for a long time. Like I said, since 2013. So I've come up with ways to do things. I'm pretty innovative. I've come up with ways to do things that I can do a lot faster than others, right? So um, and with her watching my screen, I can't do my moves. I can't do things because it's not something that she's familiar with. She'll be, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? That's not how you do it. It's like, I know what I'm doing. Relax. So yeah, but that didn't work out anyway. She ended up letting me go, and I was like, oh, it's okay.
Right.
Yeah,
Look, all
yeah,
money ain't good money.
yeah. So
I
it
would
was
have
all
been
right.
out the gate though, Dean. You better than me. I'd have been annoyed. Out. Jen said that wasn't her. I know it wasn't you, Jen, because you don't have that kind of time to be
Yeah,
sitting
no.
there watching to make sure somebody doing what they supposed to be doing.
Yeah. But
um,
it was a long time ago. It was very, very long time ago. So things have changed, so we don't do that anymore. But yeah, that was one of the crazy ones.
oh, I bet I would have
Yeah.
been like, girl, can you no, we're not doing that. So you can cut your losses now, or you can let me do what you hired me to do and cut your losses later. But either way, we're not doing that. It's so funny you mentioned that example because I have a girlfriend who is still in the workplace. And during during COVID, when everybody was working from home, her supervisor would have these team meetings every day where everybody had to log on, turn on their cameras, and be on all day, like in an all day meeting. And that was her way of making sure that they were working. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. Like, who has time for that?
Yeah, that's crazy. But you know what? There's an app now, or like a program called Time Doctor that the companies are using, virtual assistant companies are using, that takes a screenshot of the VA's screen every 5 minutes,
Oh, Jesus.
and then it tracks their mouse movements and their keyboard strokes. So
Mm,
anytime that your mouse or your keyboard hasn't moved in like 20 seconds, it's gonna alert the client, hey, this guy is not there's no movement. This guy's probably asleep. So, I don't do that with my guys. I don't like, like you said, delegate trust. There's no trust in that. People
it is
can't work in that environment.
it is
I don't think
definitely
people can do
no trust in that. That's too much.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I wouldn't do well in that kind of environment. I already know me. It'll be like,
Yeah.
like, do you want me to do this work or not?
Yeah.
And if you do, back up, let me do my work. If you don't, that's cool. We can sit here and look at each other all day. Because while you look at me, I'm not gonna be doing no work because I'm gonna be looking at you. like, like that's crazy. Delegating trust is important. And as a
Yeah.
leader, it's even more important for your team to know that you trust them and that they're going to do the right thing. Not always perfectly, but they're going to do the right thing. Let's see, we have a question here. How many people do you have on your team?
I know for sure there's less than 20.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
a pretty big team.
Yeah. I know for sure there's less than 20. Probably around more than 15, less than 20.
Okay, that's a pretty big team.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So it is already time's up. Time went by very quickly. So
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you
Thank you so much for the
for
opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for coming on and agreeing to do this. Um, I'm gonna put you in the background. I'm gonna do my what the hell segment,
Yes, ma'am.
and then we're gonna wrap this one up and we're gonna send it to Raven so he can do the clips and the editing.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Thank you so much.
So let's talk about what the hell. What the hell are you willing to do for yourself? Are you willing to do the same type of things that you're willing to do for other people? You know, when you think about how much energy and effort and brain power that we use to solve other people's problems, to work with other people and help them arrive at solutions, and to address challenges that they may be having in their lives, are you willing to do that for yourself? Most oftentimes, we are not. And so I'm going to ask you, what the hell? Why are you so willing to give to other people and not willing to give to yourself? And so when you start thinking about starting a business or starting a podcast or anything that you want to start and which you plan to monetize, you have to be willing to give to yourself by hiring, not asking for volunteers, hiring professionals to help you accomplish your goal. Now, we all, as Dean mentioned, have different strengths. And so there may be some things that you could do yourself instead of paying somebody else to do it. But trust and believe there is a peace of mind that come along with being able to hire professionals to do most of the things that you don't necessarily have time to do. And you don't have time to do those things because oftentimes you are too busy doing things for other people. So stop and ask yourself, what the hell am I doing? Because those people that you are freely giving your time, energy, and effort to, cannot help you run your business. They cannot and will not help you do your social media marketing or your social media or your branding or create a logo for you. They're not going to do that freely. They're going to want you to pay for it. And so just ask yourself, what the hell am I willing to do for myself? And how much am I willing to pay somebody else to do for me? Because one thing I know for sure is that you should pay for convenience. And the convenience of running a business is getting somebody else to do it. As you can tell, these big companies like the McDonald's and the Chipotle's and the Walmarts, the people who own those businesses, they're not doing the work. They're paying the people that you interact with when you go into those businesses to do the business for them. So stop and ask yourself, what the hell am I willing to do for myself? And how am I going to benefit from having somebody else do it for me? Thank you for joining me on this first episode of 2026. Let's get into it. Again, I am your host, Sherelle Higgins. Happy New Year and have a great, great kickoff to the new year. Thank you for joining and participating in Let's Get Into It. I want to thank my special guest for being brave enough to get into it. Without you, these conversations cannot happen. Remember, different viewpoints, respect, and love are the foundations of Let's Get Into It. If there's a topic you think I should discuss, drop me a recommendation. If you're interested in being my special guest, let me know because we can and will get into it. Have a great day on purpose, and I look forward to your continued engagement and support as we get into it.